Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
Welcome, ladies and gents. We got another special guest tonight. We got Korey Dizzley Fackler, who you may know as Donnie Wahlberg's stunt double on Blue Bloods, his stunt work on the Netflix Marvel saga, and various other movies and shows, including Death House, The Irishman, Beyond the Night, and even various stunt work on The Blacklist and FBI. Welcome to the show.
You did your homework. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, as we always like to ask everyone before we begin, what were your inspirations in getting into the dangerous stunt industry?
Well, that's a very good question to lead off with. When I was a kid, I grew up a military brat, and we ended up in Alaska, of all places, and there was always a lot of piles of snow everywhere, and I had a lot of fun just jumping off of playground equipment, seeing how high I could go into piles of snow. That manifested into flipping off things, and I was a bit of a show off, flipping off playground equipment at school, and it was about that time I saw my first Jackie Chan movie, and I realized that you could get paid to do that kind of thing. So that sort of led me down the path. I had been doing martial arts for several years before that, but I didn't know that. I didn't see it as an option as something that I'd be able to do personally until I kind of got hooked on Jackie Chan movies and started getting interested in fight choreography and things of that nature.
Very neat. What was your favorite of Jackie's movies?
Oh man, there's so many of them.
Super Cop, Police Story, or Drunken Master.
Well, you got to go Drunken Master too. That end fight scene was phenomenal. I mean, they admitted that last 10 minutes took, I think, 6 months to shoot, something insane like that. Just day after day after day of just knocking it out. All of his old school stuff, like from the mid '80s to through the '90s, is just incredible. I mean, Police Story, that finale is just insane. But and anything he does is just so creative and inspiration to look at, like not just with regards to choreography, but camera angles and pacing and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So, when did you decide that you're watching all of these inspirational talents on TV? Was it during high school or college that you decided, hey, I'm going to try and do, this gig that's, at the time there wasn't many outlets for it, not many schools. So
it was during high school. A friend of mine had this old, I'm going to date myself, a friend of mine had this old VHS camera, like those big giant clunky ones. And because there wasn't Jackie Chan wasn't like mainstream in the U.S. at that time, so all of my Jackie Chan knowledge and videos came from bootleg videos that I ordered online. They were all like dubbed horribly in English and had like subtitles at the bottom were all grainy. I ordered them from some crazy Asian action site And we would watch the videos, and we like I wore them out because I watched them so many times. We'd slow mo them and like take the camera, and we would copy them shot for shot out of my yard and just try to see how close we could get to it. And this was during high school. I still didn't know that it was something that I'd be able to do professionally, but
Hmm.
it was something in the back of my mind. I had aspirations to. I was actually a musician, so I had aspirations to play my flute for a living, be a concert flute player. I actually used that to go to college. It wasn't until after college that I actually started pursuing stunts full time, but it was always something in the back of my mind. It kind of seems because people tell people you want to do stunts, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy! Like you can never do that. You can't be an actor. That's pipe dream." So it kind of got put on the back burner, and it's just kind of like, "Oh, that's something that maybe someday I'll look into." But to answer your question, this is a long way to get the answer, but to answer your question, after college is when I finally bit the bullet and started to chase it full time.
Absolutely. Okay, very sweet. And did your pals tag along with you?
Unfortunately, not. That was all me. I started researching. Started researching places where I could like learn more about the stunt industry because living in Alaska, you don't shoot anything up there. You can't go to a film set. There's no one tells you how to do these kind of things. And even at the time, the internet wasn't even that great. It was the AOL modem and waiting for all that nonsense. So it was hard to research things. I found one stunt school in Seattle. I don't remember what that was called, and I found one in Australia. And it was about that time that I'm going to my 5th year of college. I kept changing my major. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then I stumbled upon the Australian Stunt Academy online. I thought, I didn't have to pay for college. I had a scholarship from my flute, so I had some money saved up. I figured, why not? So if I'm going to go to stunt school, I might as well go to Australia and take a vacation, give this thing a shot, and that's how it started.
That is way cool. And the school's still around.
It is. It's changed a couple. I believe they changed the name around a bit, but it's grown by leaps and bounds. It's as far as I know, it's one of the most well-known schools out there, and they do everything. They do the high falls targets, firebirds. Like when I went there, it was still kind of blossoming. It wasn't very big. The last I checked in on it, their facility was much bigger, and they do a lot more elaborate type stuff. Very cool.
Way more elaborate. Okay. Um, and has it also like stretched out towards nationwide?
I don't think so. I mean, they're located just sort of in the heart of like a tourist area. I don't know how familiar you are with Australia. It's located right in the Gold Coast.
And what's its name again? Sorry.
Uh, I believe now it's just called Stunt Academy. At the time, it was
Stunt Academy.
Australian Stunt Academy, and it's run by this awesome guy named Colin Hanley. He always has famous guests, that are well known in the stunt world come by and like give lectures and things like that.
Okay, stellar.
Yeah, I owe the start of my career to that place, even though it didn't really take off for several years after that. That's definitely what started it.
And did you pick anyone's brain there, and they were able to essentially just recommend you to a bunch of other coordinators and choreographers?
Yeah, I mean, you leave the school with like a list of contacts and things of that sort. But I mean, it's a tough industry to get your foot in the door. You can cold call a lot of people, you can hustle sets, but if you're not union and you've never done a stunt before, like officially, then a lot of people don't want to take a chance with you, and with good reason. People rely on you for their lives, so they're going to be very leery of who they invite into their specific club.
Yep, for sure, for sure. You meet any other faces there that you recognize from various blockbuster movies, like J.J. Perry, James Yu, or Ali Yong, or anyone?
Unfortunately, not. Yeah, drawing a blank. We met some famous stunt doubles, not necessarily choreographers or famous actors, but we met the guy. Oh man, I'm aging myself. They're gonna kill me for forgetting. The
Fine, that's a
Darko,
start.
Darko Tuscan. He was the one who he was Keanu Reeves' main stunt double in The Matrix.
Oh,
Did a-
Chad Stahelski. Yeah.
did a bunch Darko Tuscan also did a lot of his big stuff. And he ran some clinics down there. While I was down in Australia, they were actually starting to film Matrix Reloaded. So a lot of us at the stunt school actually got to work together with a bunch of those guys behind the scenes. Obviously we didn't get any time in the movie or anything like that, but we got to see how things work and got some good information.
Sweet.
There's been a lot of stuff down there at Fox Studios.
Oh, stellar. Okay. And more or less, you also. So what was your main break-in? Did you do a bunch of shorts and sizzle reels?
Yeah, I mean, I did when you're a star and stuff before me, you do all kinds of stuff for free. I started filming a bunch of fight scenes because earlier I would copy Jackie Chan stuff, so I had this whole notebook full of choreography of my own ideas that were similar, and I would get friends together and we would just shoot it. And again, at the time you couldn't just throw it up on YouTube because YouTube wasn't really a thing, so you film it and then you're like, okay, now what do we do with it? We mail it to someone or we show someone who might possibly know someone else. But down when I was in Australia, I did a couple commercials here and there. That kind of got my foot in the door a little bit, but not really. I was down there for a working visa or for a vacation visa, not a working visa. So everything I did had to be under the table. When I left Australia, I actually couldn't go back. This is a little off topic, but I'm getting to the answer. Trust me. When I left Australia, I came back to the States. My parents had actually sold their house, so I couldn't go back to Alaska. So I had nowhere to go. A couple of my buddies from Alaska had moved to Las Vegas, so I decided to move down there just to be around friends, and that's how I kind of got my foot in the door a little bit. I did a couple shows here and there on the Strip, some commercials. That's when I did my first official filming gig. It was a instructional video called Fight Scenes for Motion Pictures. That 2003. A friend of mine just happened to know someone who had his own little production company. They were looking for martial artists who could tumble. So I kind of just lucked out, and we shot that. I guess over the course of 2 days. That was pretty cool. And apparently, this was very cool. Colin from the stunt school found out about that, and I don't know if it's still part of the curriculum, but they used to show that DVD as part of the classes for the Australian Stunt Academy. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is neat. And when did you really realize you were making a difference? Like your friends were recognizing you in movies, and you just were getting continually recommended to be part of various TV shows, stunt crews.
That actually took several years. Like I said, I was doing some shows in Las Vegas, and that led to some live shows elsewhere. So I did the. Can you still hear me? The heat turned on. I'm sorry. So I did the live show circuit for a while. I ended up playing Robin in a stunt show in New Jersey for a season, and then that led to a huge injury and a long recovery, but that's a different story. After that, I was called for a stunt gig in Australia for a live show. That was awesome. There was a lot of huge stunts in that. Some of my most favorite stunts I've ever done were in that live show. And it wasn't until I returned from China after that one of my buddies from the Batman show that I did in New Jersey had kind of got his foot in the door with a couple of TV shows in New York. and he recommended me for a job, and that's what kind of started getting my foot in the door. And it wasn't until there was an open casting call for, I believe it was the last Airbender, that they needed like special skills extras, and I still was in union, so you know you get what you could get. So special skills extra is basically an extra that has to be able to perform a task, not just walk around in the background. So they needed hundreds of like martial arts guys. So me and this guy who played Batman did the show, and we impressed the coordinator for that, and that eventually led to me getting my union card, and that led to more jobs, and that kind of opened the floodgate. But it was a struggle to get my foot in the door for sure.
I bet. And just any other difficulties that you would like just care to share with people when it's just their first time out, like just bracing for the kick to the gut and trying to be on everyone's level, dealing with the different personas? Do you have any other just kind of tips and tricks for anyone who's trying to embrace all this freakiness all at once?
Sure. I mean, it's number one thing is probably, I mean, you gotta be humble. There's so many other people trying to be in your position, and so many people that can do the same things that you can do. I mean, going into it being a martial artist, of course, I was cocky. I thought I was like the bee's knees, but there's a lot of people that can do the same kind of things. Everyone's unique in their own special way, but it's very humble. So when you got to be prepared for disappointment, because you're gonna get shot down 10 times for every one time you get a call. Even now, like I get called for a lot of things that I still don't get the part. That's just the nature of the game. As far as physically being prepared, any kind of tumbling classes teach you like aerial awareness. Some kind of fighting or martial arts is definitely a plus. But it's also important to remember that real fighting and screen fighting are completely different. Real fighting will teach you timing and like how to take a hit and all that good stuff. But real fighting also teaches you to hide your movements and not telegraph so people don't see what you're doing. And screen fighting is the opposite. You got to show everything, make it big, got to make it look good on camera and all that good stuff.
Indeed. What is your favorite aspect to working a fight? Is it just starting the fight, ending the fight, or even just being part of a giant ensemble where you're one of many people rushing around in the background, like part of a SWAT team, part of a group of soldiers?
Oh man, it's all awesome. I love all of it. As far as putting a fight scene together myself, that's probably one of my favorite things to do, because I love the story aspect of it, the creativity aspect of it. I mean, what sells a good fight scene is, you have to have skilled performers, and you have to have big hits that sell, and good nasty reps and things like that. But the number one thing is the story. A fight scene is a story. It's got to have a beginning, a middle, and end. Your character has to grow and progress and make a change, and like otherwise it's not interesting.
Absolutely. It's repetitive and confuses people.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of the old school like Hong Kong martial arts movies. From a martial arts standpoint, they're incredible. If you're a martial artist and you love watching, it's great. But at the same time, like, why are these people fighting? Who cares? Like after 10 minutes, it just gets exhausting. It's like what they're doing is awesome, but it's just the same thing for no
Totally.
reason at all.
You're having to deal with every kind of formula, like, hey, we got a big giant movie star. They're not very believable as a movie star, but we have to make them look believable with every punch and everything. And vice versa. Everyone is believable, but we need a better story.
Well, I always like to use the example of Rocky, right? For example, like the choreography isn't necessarily the greatest. It's well executed, but it's not intricate. But every time he lands a hit, people cheer, like, because you were with him for the struggle. Like, you care whether or not that punch connects, but like whether or not he gets that
Hmm. Totally. So, just other aspects to this. Who, uh, what coordinators and other stunt crew do you commonly just continually work with still to this day? Like you're
Um,
not surprised to see them on the same set.
well, New York is a pretty close knit crew. Like there's probably only a few hundred people that do everything. So we all kind of know each other, which is great.
Mhm.
But name drop too many people and like forget to leave people in. But the coordinators for Blacklist and Blue Bloods, so Court Hessler and Roy Farkle, I work with them a lot. They're great.
Okay, nice.
Let's see.
What do you often get called to do? Is it often just giant falls, or I mean, I saw Stunt Driver was on one of those shows. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what they happen to need at a particular time. You know, 9 times out of 10, my experience with stunts is it's usually something small and mundane. Well, one I think mundane in stunt circles, but like like for example, you'll be like part of a robbery crew and you have to like fire off some blanks and then you take a squib and you fall and you hit the ground. So like an extra can't do it, but you need a stunt guy to do it because like blanks are dangerous and you got to know cameras and you have to know all that. Or you get called,
Absolutely.
or you get called for a big like fist fight, like a mob scene or something like that. Um, like usually when you get called for something like that, it's not said ahead of time what you're going to do. It's just assumed that you
Totally.
just you
I
can
had to
be any.
explain it to people all the time on just when I was an extra, I would uh they just thought certain filmmakers or actors were being lazy, and I was just like, no, you don't get it. That this is not this person's job to, remember what stunt area they're in or what have you. It's just like it, and they just seem to not understand. It's like, yeah, you guys got to worry about where this car is going in the giant fight scene. The actor or actress should not be worrying about that. They should be selling it.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of times you like I like that you mentioned like where things had to be. That's a really good point. Because a lot of times you'll get called for like
Staging, yeah.
be like a stunt driver, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're driving a hero car like racing through traffic. Like the rest of the traffic on the road has to be piloted by stunt drivers because they have to be driving a specific speed. They have to hit their specific mark every single time. So the hero cars can zip through and no one gets hurt. You can't just put like any regular person in those cars. They got to hit their mark exactly every single time. You know?
Hmm. Oh man, yeah. So this is great stuff. Are there any projects you actually want to tease a bit?
Uh, unfortunately, I don't have anything cooking at the moment. COVID kind of like changed the industry quite a bit. I mean, I know I didn't want to talk about vaccines or anything like that, but just in general, like a lot of the stunt work has slowed down for a while because of the changes in the industry. So I don't have anything pending at the moment, but generally what happens is that you can get a call and they might need you tomorrow or they might need you next week. That's just the nature of the beast. At the moment, I've just been plugging away on my own personal stuff. Like I teach gymnastics on the side, and I'm an author. So I recently converted one of my books to a novel, or one of my novels to a screenplay. So I'm trying to pedal that off at the moment. But they're always shooting something. I was recently called for another episode of I believe it was Blacklist. So we're kind of wait and see how that pans out. But
Oh, well, what show? Sorry, cut off there.
Blacklist.
Blacklist. Okay, yeah, that's still going. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, you have any other just favorite stories you just kind of want to recant?
Sure. I mean, that's what I was kind of wondering if that's what kind of started this whole thing. If you wanted to hear about any, like any gnarly injuries or like any big stunts or anything like that, like anyone in the industry certainly has some crazy stories to tell, like some nastiness that's happened. Um, what would you like? Do you want to hear like my favorite stunt or like the worst injury? I'm happy
Uh,
to share.
by all means, just whatever. What stunt to this day would you say you are still absolutely just like the proudest of? You're just like that's it. Not only reminded you of what a blessed industry you were in, but also just how you have gotten just so far, and it just looks so good to where you're just like I got nothing to complain about. This is just perfection. Everything you're seeing on screen.
I mean, strangely enough, my favorite stunt and probably the one I'm most proud of was before I actually got into before I joined the union. It was for one of the live shows that I did because it was a big stunt and I had to do it. Gosh, 4 or 5 times a day, six times a week. And it was gnarly. I There was this fight scene on this tower. It was about probably 60 feet up, and at the end of the fight scene, someone shoots this flare that's supposed to simulate a bazooka, and the balcony explodes into flames. So as soon as that goes off, I have to push my foot on this safety release, and the balcony I'm standing on sort of dumps like a dump truck, and I have to fall off this balcony and do this like screaming backflip like down into the water, like 60 feet below. That was pretty gnarly. That was awesome because it was hard from a technical standpoint because it's like smoke and fire in your face. It's hard to see it's hard to spot your landing in the water, and also the gag was like my character was supposed to die. So after I hit the water, I had to swim, I don't know, 50 or 60 feet underwater through a swim out that would take me backstage, so it looked like I didn't surface for air. So I got to do that over and over and over again. I mean that was it was so much fun, and it was a great experience because you know how many times can you fall that high over and over and over again? Like what other venue would you ever do that? Even if you were on set training, you wouldn't get those numbers in. That was a lot of fun.
100%. Yeah, it
And
doesn't happen overnight.
on the same show, there was one gag where we had to ride a little mini sub. My character had to ride a mini sub as it surfaced, and I kind of stood on the top as it came through. But to get there again, like it wasn't a real sub, so I had to scuba dive to it because it was basically just this prop on a scissor lift.
Oh dear. Were you already good with various just breathing heavily underwater and all that?
Well, yeah, I had like a spare air, this tiny little breathing tank, but it was only good for maybe 4 or 5 breaths. But the coolest part was there was this rope along the bottom of this set that I would pull myself along to get to the submarine. And my character like was basically the evil president of Trident Industries, which was like the bad corporation of the show. So I had my sunglasses on, I had a suit and tie on, and I'm pulling myself along this rope on the bottom of the pool. On the top of the pool, there's jet skis going by and explosions going off. I can hear the soundtrack. I felt like James Bond every time I did that. It was so cool. And I'm pulling myself to the sub, and I'm hearing the theme song, and like see my shadow on top of the sub before I get to the tower and I push the button and have it like surface. I mean, every time I did that, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm doing this. Like this is how they're paying me to do this. This is just fun. This is great.
That's wonderful. Any other stunt that you just haven't done yet, but you really do want to do at some point before you're past your prime and you're like, I can't do this anymore?
Um, Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to do a decelerator. I think that would be awesome. I've done a few high falls, but I've never had like a really high fall where like you're connected to the rig that slows you down before you hit the ground. They use it in these like underworld when they jump off the roof and then they just like land on their feet. Like I would love to do that. That looks like a lot of fun.
Okay, sweet.
I'm trying to think as far as like for film. Um, I'm proud of the work I did on Jessica Jones. I mean, I doubled the main villain on that for season 3,
Lots of
and
dangerous stuff on there. Yeah.
yeah, so basically that just meant I was a ragdoll for a season. So I mean, it was pretty gnarly, but it was it was a great experience. I got to do a lot of ratchets. So Jessica punches you and you don't just fall over, you fly down the hallway, you like crash through a wall. So there were some big ones on that one. So that was a lot of fun.
Did they have to also mix in a bunch of wire work and pyrotechnics?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the gag. Like there was one particular one where I was doubling the guy, and she sort of picks him up off the chair and like throws him across the room. And they had her stunt double like sort of grab me by the scruff of my neck and like lift me up, and then they would cut, and we had a mini tramp in the middle of the room. So the next scene, basically, I just got a running start from the hallway, and I punched off the mini tramp, and I just shoved myself into the wall, like I don't know, must have been 15 feet away. I just had to
Oh
slam
dear.
into this wall and like bounce down onto the ground. No mats, it's just like bam. But it cut together seamlessly. It looked like she threw me. But those are the ones that are like obviously it hurt, but it was a lot of fun. When you do a big one and like you hear like the director gasp, like, "Oh shit!" But you did a good job. That's always nice.
And plus, yeah, I mean, people look at this stuff and it's just so brief, and it takes them a while to realize it's like, okay, people are still mixing in physical stunts, and then adding the CGI effects in addition to what's already there, the pyrotechnics, the wire work, and all that. Um,
Well, absolutely, and even the that's a really good point. A lot of the highly like so much action is heavily CG, but you still need people to like put on the suits and motion capture what's going on. Like I really don't foresee a time when like stunt people will actually completely taken out of the equation, because anytime you animate something without someone physically capturing the motion for it, it doesn't read quite right. It doesn't look real. The physics aren't quite there.
Absolutely. And I see that, much like comedians will often complain about what they can or can't joke about. I don't want to say complaint. A common concern, much like with comedians or even with filmmakers on what subject is off limits and everything. I do often hear about stunt performers and martial artists talk about how they would always feel like there wasn't a sense of job security when computer effects were doing a lot of things. Do you think that's just an overreaction, or is there still a bit of a concern about that?
I'm a little concerned about the changing up of things. It could definitely make the number of stunt jobs less available to people applying for it. But at the same time, like I said, like there's always going to be need for people to throw on the motion capture suit and like be tossed around to plug in the mechanics of how you're moving into the computer. And the more I look into it, like even these big Marvel movies that have tons and tons of CG in it, there's you still got the stunt performers putting on the suits and or, dressing up like their actor and just doing it in front of the green screen as opposed to doing it on a physical set.
Right, you got to be a part of it with the TV shows and all, and that's only like a segment of what they do on the movies.
And I was probably more concerned about that a few years ago than I am now. It really doesn't look like it's going to change that much. Like especially since the rise of comic books. I keep mentioning Marvel, but DC and like all those other things too. Like there's never been such an interest in comic book movies. There certainly wasn't when I was younger. So with the Star Wars growing and Marvel growing, and like doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. So there's always going to be a need for people in my profession, and that's great. But like you said, as far as job security goes, it is like being a comedian or an actor. It can be feast or famine. You know, I've had years where I have made tons and tons of money, and I couldn't believe it. And I've had years where like I haven't earned very much at all. It really depends on what they happen to need and what's filming in your area and all that good stuff. Like I said, I have a side gig. I coach gymnastics in between stunt jobs, and luckily, you know, you work a good stunt job, you get residual checks to tide you over to the next one. And you know, you're always working on your craft. You're always trying to learn something new, so you can be more marketable for the next one.
100%. Do you have any others, just friends who you think are going to continue to rise in the industry, or that you might be mentoring?
Not me personally. A friend of mine, Chaz Menendez, runs a stunt training, not necessarily a school, but like classes up at his house up in New York, and he's great at bringing in up and comers. And what he's doing is awesome because, like I said earlier, it's so hard to get into the industry, and he's really opening up and like giving people a chance to learn some choreography, learn some basic fights and falls and things like that, as without actually having to like go to a physical school and fork over that insane amount of money that it costs to do something like that. So that's awesome. Me personally, I'm not really mentoring anyone at the moment, but it's a really close knit group. You know, when a bunch of us get together to train and there's someone that's trying to get into the industry, we always try to help each other out. You know, the more the merrier. If you know what you're doing, it's better to have more people around that can watch your back than less.
That's great. And out of all the coordinators you've had, who would you say is your absolute favorite?
Oh man,
to have organized all the action for you, and you want to just make sure, you know, they have a shit-eating grin on their face at the end of the day, showing, hey man, you did a great job.
Oh, man. Put me on the spot there. I'm going to answer this the best way I think possible. Every coordinator I have ever worked for has been excellent at their job. And I love the knowledge and the skill set that they all bring. As far as who I enjoy working with the most, probably Kurt Hessler, because he just happens to be very, very laid back and easy to talk to, very easily approachable. He got his start in live shows like I did. So, I mean, when I first hustled him, that's part of the business that I don't like. Even with regards to my books, like marketing yourself or like, hey, look at me, like I don't like that at all.
When you got to mix in business with just 100%. Hustling, it's just like you're becoming a realtor now, as opposed to.
And unfortunately, it's a big part of the job is to go to hustle sets and like try to get the next gig. So anyway, I went to Hustle Blacklist, and I went to meet Court, and like they're like, oh, he's in his office. We'll get him. I'm like, no, don't bother him. Like if he's around, I'll say hello. If not, like don't think about it. No, it's fine. And then I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Like I took him out of his office. He doesn't know who the heck I am. He came down. We ended up talking for 25 minutes to half an hour about kind of the stuff we've been talking about. Like, like it was great. Like he just loves the industry. He loves helping people out, and he's just so laid back. And on top of that, he's got all the knowledge and the discipline that all the other coordinators have. But at the same time, that's not to downplay any of the other ones. I appreciate every job I've ever had, and everyone I've ever worked for has they have busted their butt to get where they are, and like have vastly more knowledge than I do about the stunt industry. So I'm grateful for everyone I've ever worked for.
Oh, that's wonderful. And who's okay? So and now that we're wrapping up, well, you're fortunate to be on the blacklist, which again is just kind of has a equalizer, maybe even just many other just crime show formula down where, there's always a giant guest each week. Have you had any particular favorite guests to work with on that show? Or have you not really been too much around the actors?
Not on that show particularly. Usually, when I'm called for Blacklist, it's part of an ensemble. I'm usually part of like a SWAT team or like an enemy group of thugs that goes to raid something. So we're generally not that close to the lead actors on that show.
Mhm.
But I have met my fair share of celebrities, which is pretty cool. Not necessarily on that show, but I double J.K. Simmons from time to time, and he's awesome. He's just really down to earth, like wonderful human being. So anytime I get the opportunity to work with him, that's great.
Okay, stellar. And thank you ever so much for taking the time to do this. It's just been, again, we love inspiring, enlightening stuff like this. And, you have a dream job for many movie buffs. And, again, it's not for everyone.
I appreciate you reaching out. A lot of us we've been doing this for a while. It doesn't really seem like that big a deal. We kind of not that we forget all the hard work it took to get here, but it gets to be it's kind of just our job. So it's sometimes we lose sight of how interesting it can be to other people to do what we do. One of the things I like so much about the industry is you don't necessarily know what you're going to do from one job to the next, who you're going to work for, or what it's going to be. It could be a car hit, it could be a stair fall, it could be a fight, it could be a firearms gag. You're going to have to fall into some water, crash through the window. You really have no idea, and that keeps it fresh. That's awesome. You know what I mean? So it definitely is a dream job, but you got to keep your wits about you, and you got to stay strong and fit. My daily training regimen is pretty intense, not just with my martial arts, but just for overall fitness. Because when you get a call to do something gnarly, you want to be able to dust it off and be like, cool, let's do that again.
Absolutely. And, I've seen so many people say, I can do that. And it's like, well, not necessarily. It's just.
I mean, yeah, you probably can once,
Once. Yeah.
And how many other people are you going to get hurt because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time? There's so much more to the industry.
Right. And why pay with it, with your life or just a trip to the hospital?
100%. Yeah.
Well, once again, this was very intriguing and just very engaging. So thank you ever so much for being on here.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I really appreciate it.
We'll return after these messages.
JURS Podcast is proud to promote AutoCorrect, an independent film company with experienced industry professionals who can serve all your film industry needs. They include self-tapes, voice actor recordings, demo reel editing, script revisions, headshots, and much more. They're Actor Correct at your request. Book them on Instagram.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All? Sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds?
Necrophilia!
It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in it.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be
could
a
you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
Greetings, friends. My name is Dean Legero, and I'm the host of the 3324 podcast. I invite you to join me and my lifelong friend Eric Kuber to come with us as we discuss the music and movies that shaped our life. Each week, we'll pick an album or film that we really connect to, and not only give you some great info and trivia, but also discuss, debate, and celebrate what it means to us and the journey it took us on. We also look forward to hearing from you and giving us some of your picks for us to check out and discuss. I think it'll be a really fun experience, so come along with us for the ride. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider and at 3324.buzzsprout.com. Thanks for your time, and welcome to the 3324 family.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With the one-last plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.